What's happening, guys? It's Mike's Whole Dragon Channel, and tonight we are going to take a look at Absolute Batman, issues 1 through 6. This is the book that is probably the most similar to the mainline character, you know, his mainline DC equivalent. This book here is, and he's the most similar, but at the same time there's a couple of big differences. You know, obviously the one biggest difference is the fact that his mother, Bruce Wayne's mother, is still alive. That's probably the biggest difference. You know, I know some people, like, just opening these pages here, you see Alfred as basically like a CIA style secret agent. He's working for some sort of agency as some sort of field operative, and that is slightly unusual, but there has been different instances where Alfred was referenced as having been a spy before he became a butler, you know, as having worked in the military, never to any extent like this, but so that's not terribly out of the ordinary. One of the, obviously the size of Bruce, you know, is one of the big things that's different, but that's not terribly unusual. Now here's one of the more radical differences between Absolute and mainline. Bruce's childhood friends are, in a mainline DC universe, they are his rogues gallery. You know, Riddler, Two-Face, Killer Croc, Penguin, you know, etc. Let's see. So we have Penguin, Two-Face. No, I think that is, I think that's supposed to be Catwoman. Anyway, that's Catwoman right there. And then that's Penguin. No, that's Catwoman, I'm sorry, with the ears. And then you've got Riddler, Two-Face, Penguin, Killer Croc. So that is one of the big differences between the two. This group, the Party Animals, incredibly violent group. But we've seen violent groups like this in Gotham. You know, we've seen violence taking over Gotham. Specifically, you know, this, if you've read Scott Snyder's New 52 Batman, then it has a lot of the same feel to it. People protesting in the streets, Commissioner Gordon, you know, being although here he's the mayor, but you know, still people mad about the situation in Gotham, how violent and infested with crime it is. Bullock, Harvey Bullock, being someone who's, you know, not particularly dirty but overtly violent. So these are all things that we have kind of seen to various degrees in other Batman comics. What really, but the art, these images, you know, by Nick Dragotta, really powerful stuff. You know, that this is part of the stuff that really makes the Absolute Batman stand out. You know, the cape, how it's almost like Spawn's cape. the brutal fighting tactics, you know, his points of his cowl or daggers. His logo is an axe. Chops this guy's hand off. So the brutality from this Batman is slightly more than our mainstream Batman. As far as the origin story is concerned, it's not terribly different. You know, we see here that what happened is his dad was shot at a shooting at a zoo while he was out on a field trip. And we see he's leaving flowers here at the zoo, the site of the shooting. Then we see that instead of Bruce taking his trip around the world to learn everything, he stays in Gotham to learn it. Goes on a football scholarship, learns all the stuff he needs to know, chemistry, mechanics, criminal psychology, etc., etc. So like I said, the Absolute Batman here is very similar. It's probably the most out of all the Absolute line characters who are the closest to their mainline characters. But, you know, his mother to me, and I was just thinking about this when I reread through the first 6 issues, to me, his mother fills the role that Alfred has in the mainline Batman book. You know, someone that Bruce can talk to about his mission, about his thoughts, you know, a sounding board, if you will, as opposed to this Alfred here, who is basically going to be his partner in crime, you know, kind of like a older Robin or something like that, you know. Like I said, Batman has taken, you know, and this is another thing, big difference here. Batman has this gun. It's Alfred's gun that he took, and he modified it, shoots Alfred in the face with it, and it's just like it's like rat shot, but it's in the shape of bats. So, but I would say the thing that sets the two books the most, and obviously this here with the Joker, this is probably one of the other factors is the biggest difference. This Joker here is a Joker who has traveled around the world. He's rich. He just got back from being overseas or what have you. So it's kind of, like it says here, I tracked him 5 years. I tracked him while he studied with Ducard in France. Then he trained with the League of Assassins. So Joker has basically taken Bruce's role of traveling across the world to learn his skills. Issue 2. We have another. We open up at the zoo in the aftermath of the shooting. Batman's fighting this gang, the Party Animals. He's been waging war against them. And like I said, that's not terribly out of the ordinary. He goes and visits Joe Chill. That's another one of the things that's a little different than the previous or the mainline Batman book. It's the little things, as far as the story-wise, that set it apart. But really, the thing that, to me, that sets it the most apart is the images. You know, we have this big hulking Batman. The building's on fire. It's in the shape, or the silhouette. It's a silhouette of Batman. So these images and these pictures that Nick Dragotta give us, you know, it really establishes, the vibe for the Absolute Batman, which is a real over-the-top style vibe. Like, you know, people would, like someone would say, you know, it's just super metal, just super over-the-top, super badass. You know, doesn't make it. You wouldn't try to apply. It would be the rule of cool. You know, his cape, his Batmobile, you know, that shotgun blast to the face. None of it would be really applicable in real life. None of it would happen. But damn if it just doesn't look cool. Bruce having poker night with his buddies, and they're not really criminals per se. They're not. Let me rephrase that. They are not dangerous criminals. They kind of like to fudge the rules, and they kind of like to break. They like to skim a little bit of money off the top. You know, like the Penguin right here does. You know, Killer Croc, he breaks a couple of rules, owning exotic animals. So it's nothing that they're truly evil. They're just, you know, borderline crooks. And here in this scene, he basically uses them to bounce ideas that he has and things that he has taken from the party animals, like this helmet here that the party animals wear. He's taken it, and Edward Nygma gives him some lowdown on what he sees being like a really smart computer guy. So that's kind of a really cool thing that we see, is that he's able to apply or get his rogues gallery to help him out in this absolute universe. And then, like I said, the things that don't make any sense, that are just over the top and ridiculous. You know, this Batmobile, for instance, is, you know, look at that thing. It's the size of a small building. And he's driving it. Issue number 3. This is a young Bruce with a young Selina being childhood friends. The introductory pages here, as I mentioned when I was talking about Absolute Wonder Woman, very similar to a movie credits or intro. They're still being chased. He's driving this, for lack of a better term, this small building. You know, it's like a huge piece of construction equipment that he's driving. That's his Batmobile, bigger than the Tumbler ever was. We see Riddler, Edward Nygma. He's taking that hat, that the mask or whatever you want to call it, that Bruce confiscated from the party animals, and he's hooked it up to his computer, basically his AI, and he's telling Bruce exactly everything that mask does. It's hooked into like a huge network that the party animals are running, and he tells him it does 3 different things. It has 3 functions. 1, it is completely, what is that word? It doesn't let you know who's wearing it. It creates a wallet for crypto. And then it says right here is at part 3, as you know, provides objective and targets for the wearer with different valuations. So basically the mask is like a heads up. Like if you were playing a first person shooter and for everything you shot, it has a different value attached to it. And then you get that money deposited into your, you get that money in crypto deposited into your wallet. So, and we do see that come into play later on in a later issue. And then this is kind of a really cool Easter egg right here. They bring Mr. Bibowski, who, if you are a fan of Superman, the old school Triangle era, you will recognize him from that era. He was a supporting character in there. And then we just see the leader of the party animals just being super violent. A flashback to all the kids watching the Zorro movie, which we know had such a big influence upon mainstream Superman. Then, like I said earlier, Martha, or his mother, still alive. She's basically like a sounding board. She fills the role that Alfred has. A good Alfred, not an Alfred who's had his hand chopped off. So this is... Now this issue ends here with the leader of the party animals. He tells Batman, he basically gives him an ultimatum. He says, I'll give you $200 million to stand down for 1 week, and I'll make sure we go a little bit easier on old Gotham. So he'll give Batman $200 million if he takes the week off. If not, the amount of violence that they do, the party animals, will continue. Now this issue 4 right here, this was kind of a... This one does not tie into the initial storyline. This is kind of a one-off that shows how Bruce... This is kind of like a year 1 type story for him, where we see young Bruce, not only young Bruce talking with his dad, but also a young Batman trying to find his way. You know, he's got vampire teeth. He's got a gun. He's got contacts in. So this issue basically here is just kind of like a solo story. And I think Scott and Snyder said that they had to incorporate this issue into the initial 6 because Nick Dragotta needed a break, or he had gotten behind or something, and that's why they had this fill-in issue, for lack of a better term. It's a good solo story. You know, it doesn't detract from the, you know, it's not, you know, not detract, but it's not, you know, fucking weak or anything. It's a really good story, but it just does not fit into the main storyline. But we do get to see him, you know, we see his bench press has went up, and look how big his forearms are. He looks like Popeye. And then we see him developing some of his tech. His weird spawn cape. We see him spending time with his dad. And then this is the costume he finally decides on, which is just like what he has now. Then we get to issue 5, which is where all hell starts to break loose. We see Leslie Tompkins. She's here. She's a mainstay in the regular Batman book. So the last issue that we saw, the party animals had told Bruce, we'll give you, or told Batman, we'll give you $2 million if you take the week off. And so now this picks up where that left off. He is going to collect on that money. Alfred is spying on him. He's at the lookout position. Here's all the money. So he says right here, so it's all set, buddy. 200 million anonymously to code to the account was sent this morning. He goes, I know, I already used it on something. So basically the very first bat signal is all this money right here. So he took all that money and turned it onto the bat signal. And he tells party animals the deal is off. And everyone attacks him. He tells them, I don't need cars or planes or computers. I don't need anything. All I need is Batman. Then we have some really intense fighting scenes right here. This guy jumps on Batman's back. This is the guy whose hand he cut off in the first one. And he uses or deploys his spikes that just jump out of his cape or whatever. So he turns into like a porcupine. This is all the money burning right here. This guy just blasts him with a flamethrower. See, he says he believes that burning the cash, exposing the truth, is going to inspire them. He thinks he's a hero. I hate to tell you, pal, but you're not even the main character. So he's telling him, you don't even have main character energy in your own book. So he set on fire, throw it off the building. But because he, Batman that is so familiar with the layout of Gotham, he ditches down this manhole to escape. Alfred finds him and patches him back up. And this is basically now he turns Gotham City into the Purge. Because Batman turned down his invite, I'm offering invitations to all of you. Hundreds of $1 million, all up for grabs. So now this is where we see what the helmets do in this last issue here. This is a good picture of him and his childhood friends. Yeah, Two-Face, Edward Nygma, Penguin, Catwoman, Croc. And see, this is what the mask does when you put it on. So if you want to make 50 grand, pull a robbery. You want to make 100 grand, do some arson. So when you wear this mask, this is the heads up you get. And then like it locks on to, it has facial recognition technology. So it sees here that this is Commissioner Gordon or Mayor Gordon or whatever. If you kill him, you get $1 million. So that's a really cool plot they introduce here. This is a great shot. This shot right here looks very similar to, and I'm sure it's on purpose, to this issue here, Dark Knight Returns. I mean, this is obviously on purpose right here. They knew what they were doing when they crafted this shot out. And then, of course, we've seen this picture over and over again. Batman punting this baby, or this kid, or whatever it is. And then Bruce's mother, she tells everybody that, you know, basically she tells everybody, we're all better than this. There's no need for us to act like this, etc., etc. You know, if we do this, we're giving in, and this is how they win. You've got more hardcore, over-the-top scenes. Batman beating the hell out of them with a bowling ball. Batman deploying his cowl. So, all in all, this is a wrap-up for the first 6 issues of Batman. Now, this last page here was really wild and really over the top. This basically shows us the Joker, and he has what appears to be numerous babies or children strapped to him, and he is draining them of their blood, it looks like, and he's pumping it into him. So that is why he is pale, and he begins to get his complexion back. So this is probably one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen with the Joker, and that says a lot coming from him, considering at one time you know, he was wearing his own face that had been cut off. But so this is how this issue ends right here. But that is Batman, Absolute Batman issues 1 through 6. And like I said, it is probably not the biggest. It's the book that has the most similarities to its mainline book. I know one of the things I was kind of disappointed about was at the hook, you know, the pitch was like, imagine Batman with no mansion, no gear, not a billionaire. But really, none of that stuff even comes into play in this book. There's never any instance where he's, you know, unable to afford equipment, you know, or there's never any instance where he, you know, I mean, look at the stuff he has. He has all these incredible vehicles. You know, he has a cape that acts basically like it's alive. So what they said, the pitch of it was going to be, doesn't really seem to match up with exactly what we get. But that is, to me, that's fine. But it just, you know, like I said, the biggest difference is the over-the-top scenes, the violence, the fact that his mother is still alive, his rogues gallery were his childhood best friends. So, all in all, I have to say that if you are a fan of the Scott Snyder New 52 Batman, then you'll be able to slide right into this and you won't miss a beat. You know, it's got really strong writing. The art by Nick Dragotta has given us a ton of scenes that are really memorable, stuff that has become, you know, meme famous. And I'm only interested to see where they go from here. The next issue has Mr. Freeze in it, and it looks like a version of Mr. Freeze that, you know, it's like something we've never seen before. So definitely interested to see what they do with the Joker, since the Joker is now basically kind of went the route of Batman. But this has been the first 6 issues of Absolute Batman. If you haven't picked it up by now, I would probably wait on the trade, get you caught up. for quite a bit cheaper than it would to pick up all these individual issues. So until next time, you guys take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.